Bronson. So this is kind of a big deal indie film because it's, or not indie film, but foreign film. It's from this director that we've never talked about on the show, Nicholas Winding Refn. He's from Denmark.
Winding Refn?
I'm probably saying that terribly wrong.
Yeah, because that's a font.
He did a trilogy of films called the Pusher Trilogy that put him on the mark, and he's got a Viking movie playing at Fantastic Fest.
Have you seen the Pusher Trilogy?
I have not.
Neither have I, and I've heard that I must see that.
Right.
What is, it's not Pusher.
It's called the Pusher Trilogy.
Okay.
And he did a Viking movie that's playing at a Fantastic Fest called Valhalla Rising that I was very excited to see.
That sounds cool.
But Bronson has drawn a lot of comparisons to Clockwork Orange and Chopper, and you will see why when I describe the premise. It's about basically Britain's most famous criminal. It's this guy, Michael Peterson. In real life. True story. Yeah. Who refers to himself as Charles Bronson. He spent 34 years of his life in prison, 30 of those years in solitary confinement. I believe he's still in prison.
He is.
Yeah, he wrote a book.
Yes.
Like he's famous for extreme exercise regimen, and he wrote a book called like Solitary Fitness.
Solitary Fitness.
He does like 2,500 push-ups every day. Something crazy like that.
That's not that. I mean,
that's what you do.
I do like 1,200, but you know.
Yeah, see, double what you do.
Yeah.
That seems right. Okay. I mean, I was thinking the same thing you were thinking. It's only double what I do.
Right. So, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
What did you think of
Bronson?
I think regular viewers.
It stars Tom Hardy.
Nobody cares.
By the way. It must be said, stars the actor Tom Hardy.
In a very showy performance. A very showy performance. And I think he's pretty good in it. It's very much a look at me kind of very theatrical performance. And I think regular viewers of our show probably know that I have very eclectic tastes. I'm not necessarily the guy that loves the mainstream movies all the time. I like movies that take chances. Mm-hmm. I think this movie is a little too avant-garde for even me. And it's a bummer because we were lucky enough to go to a press screening of this film, and they gave us press notes which kind of outlined the real true life of this guy.
Charles
Bronson.
And his
life is fascinating. Unfortunately, I got none of that in the film. It's almost impenetrable to figure out the actual progression of his life events. It's sort of a kaleidoscope of just moments mixed with a artist's interpretation of what he may have been thinking during those moments. And some of it is compelling simply because of the violence and the intensity of the performance of the lead character, but ultimately as a story that I can follow that lives up to how interesting that true story is, I think it falls flat for me.
I'm gonna carry a torch here, Alex, if you don't mind.
Take it away, my friend. Light my path.
Well, I want to say, because I agree with you very much. And I think that the comparisons to those two films I mentioned come from, the visual aesthetic of the movie is very Kubrickian, and it has that austere, symmetrical frames. And there's moments of extreme violence set to classical music.
Yeah.
And much like Chopper, which was the breakout performance of Eric Bana, this is very much the look at this dude Tom Hardy, although not his debut. But
what do we know him
what
from?
it doesn't, we don't really know. He was in Rock and Rolla. He was in Band of Brothers.
Okay. Yeah.
But what it doesn't have that those movies have that a lot of biopics have, which is I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying, is I think the reason why I enjoy watching movies like that is because they're almost like how-to books. They're almost like, I don't really want to do those things, but it's interesting to see how do you get from nowhere to there.
Right.
Ray or Scarface or Boogie Nights.
American Gangster.
We know what happens to that guy, but how does that happen? You get to see that process of A to B. And even in a movie like Chopper, there's how does he do those things that make him end up where he is? And this movie, while it's an interesting intellectually to think this guy just is always badass throughout everything, but there's nothing. I want to see some change. I want to see some character development.
So you didn't
this
like
movie
it?
had none of that.
Yeah.
I was extremely extremely bored?
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's tough because it's one of those things where I too was extremely, well, I wasn't extremely bored, but I too had those moments of like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
okay, he screwed up. Let's keep going. But I also was very captivated by it at times, and it's hard to. It's a weird like. It was a weird watching experience for me because I fluctuated from this like, oh wow, this is so cool and I'm so into it and that guy is fucking nuts, to then like, okay, he's still nuts and banging people's heads. Okay, here we go. Keep it. I thought the performance was great. I'm sort of surprised. I thought you were going to be sitting there going, that is the performance I was born to play. It was amazing. Very theatrical, very broad and meaty. It was a meaty performance.
And he does a good job.
He kicked his butt.
Yeah, he does a great job. So I think I kind of am sort of like in the same boat as you guys. I think maybe I liked it a little bit more just because I had those moments of like really into it, and but I'm also a huge like Kubrick. It was nice to see something that gave me that like feeling of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, there are these moments where he's doing these things in jail that are so violent.
Yeah.
And then in the next moment, they're showing him being discharged from jail, and it's like, how the hell did he get out of jail?
And that's what's interesting.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also, he like in his real life, he's this famous artist.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like none of that is in the movie.
Hello?
They
How does
touched
that
on
guy
it. They
become?
touched on it
Yeah, but
a little bit,
but not
enough.
really.
Yeah,
I
know
mean,
what
like
The true facts are more interesting than the point presentation fact sheet.
And by
is
the
more
way, if
interesting
this
than the
movie was not based on a true story, it would have been.
Yeah.
The only reason why it was interesting, even the bits that were somewhat interesting, was because we knew
I
it
agree
was
with
a
that.
true story.
I definitely agree with
It
that.
hung its hat on that.
I'll hang my hat on you.